Welcome to The Kid is in School, where we talk about whatever we want since our kid is not here to interrupt us. But we don't have a lot of time before the bell rings, so let's get right into it. Friends, how many of us have them? They're not just song lyrics. There's something I wanted to ask you today. Do you feel like you've got a good amount of friends?
Well, I guess it depends on how you define friends, but yes, that is what a weird lyric, by the way.
I know.
How many of us have them? It's like everybody, like literally everybody.
Either that, or it just puts into question, like, are these people even my friends? And then TLC makes it worse. They're like, what about your friends? Are they going to be around?
I think they're more worried about scrubs, aren't they?
They don't want none of them. They don't want no scrubs. I just realized I don't know the rest of the TLC lyrics. Are they going to be around? Will they ever beat them down? Will your friends ever beat themselves down?
The friends are beating themselves down?
I don't know.
Or are you beating them down?
Are you going to be around? Will they ever beat them down? Yeah. I just been singing it wrong.
It's very possible that that's not the lyrics at all. You're just coming up with something.
Do you know
right.
Charlie Brown? Yeah, I've been singing them wrong for years. I bet you there is not one song I know top to bottom correctly. If I had to write out lyrics to a song.
All mine would be Bible songs that I learned in Sunday school.
Right. All the songs I know top to bottom are commercial jingles.
Yes. Maybe Twinkle Twinkle or something like that too. Like any kid songs.
Lullabies.
Anything that's designed specifically for children to memorize them easily, I remember throughout my entire life.
Yeah. And Animaniacs tried to get us to memorize the periodic table of elements, but it just didn't stick.
Yeah.
So you do have a stringent list of qualifications for what makes someone your friend. One of those is if they move away, they're not your friend anymore.
It's sort of. I wouldn't say they're not my friend anymore, but it's the amount of energy you can put into a friendship decreases heavily.
Okay. And that results in a severed friendship, I guess.
I wouldn't call it severed. It ends up being we can do what we can do when we can do it.
Yes.
Is maybe a good way to put it. So we have friends in Hawaii. Man, if they're here, we're going to hang out with them. If we're going to go to Hawaii, we're going to hang out with them. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to, and we can have texts here and there, but we can't go out to lunch once a week or do any of those things.
The likelihood of seeing them is slim to none. However, they are very endeared to you because they let us stay in their house for free, and that saved us a lot of money. I think that's another qualification for friendship for you. Have they saved me money? They're good people.
That makes me sound like I'm just a cheap guy, that my friends are just people I can mooch off of. That's not correct.
Well, I didn't mean that.
There are ways that friendships can be severed, and moving away isn't severing a friendship. In fact, I think you're misrepresenting me. I do not think that friendship ends because somebody moves away. I believe I can't develop a friendship with somebody if when we first meet, it's like, hey, oh, nice to meet you. Oh, we should hang out sometime. And then 3 weeks later, they move 6 hours away. It's like, oh, well, I'm not going to be building a friendship with you. That's a different thing than I've already built years of friendship with you. And then we moved away. Right. I'm the one that's moved away in some instances, moved away from Indiana. Mm-hmm. But I still have friends back in Indiana from high school, from college. I've, college friends that aren't in Indiana. They're in Florida or they're in Tennessee or California. I'm in New York. They're from all over the country. And so those friendships, once you're my friend and we're bonded, it doesn't matter where you are.
You've got bros in different area codes. If I could bring it back to the music.
Yeah, that's also not the lyric.
No, it's not. but it pertains to you. Mm-hmm. I'd rather you have bros than hoes. So I feel a little bit of a different obligation. Even if someone moves 6 hours away, I still feel like we have the same friendship intact, and now it's just going to be a little bit harder to be in touch with them. But for you, it's kind of like you're realistic about knowing what level of energy you're going to put into it. I like that you boiled it down to energy. That helps me, understand it. So you're like, just practically it's not going to work. I'm going to take your line, we're just going to do what we do when we can do it, as a good breakup line.
Wait,
it's not you.
There's only one
it's
person
me.
you can be breaking up with.
No, I just mean you should be a relationship advice expert and say, hey, if you need a gentle let me down, how about, you know what? This isn't goodbye forever. We're just going to do what we can do when we can do it, which is never, because you're moving away.
Well, that's the thing. Again, I think you're representing it as if there is this good friendship and somebody moves away, you feel like, oh, that's still going to be our friendship. I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying is I can't build a friendship with somebody that I've just met if they move away immediately.
Well, something else you can't do is attend a wedding of a colleague of mine. I knew someone at a job who just generously invited me to their wedding, and I was so moved by the invitation. And you were like, they're just inviting you because you're there. It's like when you have to give everybody in the classroom a cupcake, whether you like them or not. And so you were like, I'm not going to out of state, and it wasn't that far. I think it might have been New Jersey, but you said, I'm not going to New Jersey for somebody's wedding I don't even know. And I thought, even if you don't know them, it's fun to crash a wedding. It's like Wedding Crashers, the movie.
Depends on the wedding. I think that there's a lot of weddings you can end up at, and you're like, oh, this is a big mistake.
So for you, it was going to be a huge sacrifice of time, and you absolutely put your foot down. And you were like, they are not a friend. I am not doing it.
I don't understand it. Like, these are things that are, like, I understand it if it's like Bible times, and there's only one event that takes you away from your horrible existence of day-to-day life,
right,
of working the fields from sun up to sundown every day just so you can survive another day.
That's how you're picturing weddings? They were the nice distraction from the gloom of life.
The nice distraction where, like, the whole community could party in this sense. Kind of like what Christmas would be for us. Like, just a community type of event. Now, they are I consider it should be much more intimate to me. Because you can't invite the entire community. If you did, in New York City, you'd invite 8 million people to your wedding. But the way that wedding invitations are, it's very weird to me. Like, to me, it should be the close friends, family, and even family. It's like close family. You can end up inviting people where it's like, I haven't seen you in years, and now you're offended that I didn't invite you to my wedding. Like, why do you even care? Like, and I consider wedding invitations, they can be a blessing or a curse. Like, they can be an outlet for fun, or they can be a burden that somebody puts on someone else. So we should,
in a separate episode, talk about the burdensome weddings.
There are.
We just have to be careful about how not including too many details so people don't take it personally.
No, well, it's not going to be a friend. It's not going to be a close friend. It's not going to be a close family member. Like, there's things.
So part of what the burden is of a wedding is you don't know the person. You have no connection to the couple.
Right. If there's no connection, it's like, I don't understand why I'm here. Like,
for the free cake and the dancing.
It's not free if you got to pay to get there. And then you got to give them a gift. You can't show up empty-handed to somebody's wedding with no gift.
Are you also put out by the fact that you have to dress nicely?
That's...
Because some people enjoy that part.
I don't care about that.
Okay.
That's not part of my factoring into the equation.
Well, for me, I always have to get an outfit for the wedding. I do not have... I just don't have wedding-appropriate attire ever. I have one dress I keep for funerals. And then sometimes I wear that to the weddings because I just don't have wedding outfits. And if people have it in springtime, for example, and I've just got like a black shift dress, then it won't work for spring. Then I've got to do some shopping. And so for me, getting dressed for the wedding is a little bit of a hassle. I also am not a what do you call it? A sneakerhead. So I don't have shoes that work for weddings. I don't have wedding shoes.
I'm not a shoe head. I understand.
I'm not a high heel head.
Well, I think women probably do, in general, have more to think about with the outfits than a man generally does, because the basic general man outfit for a wedding is a suit.
Right, and you don't think people will notice like the quality of the suit? So you could wear the same suit to every wedding if you wanted to.
Have you seen guys at weddings? Like, there's the most ill-fitted old suits just everywhere, just scattered amongst these people.
I've never paid attention to that, but I'm going to look next time. That's a fun wedding game.
There's 3 guys at any wedding that have a suit that fits and looks nice. A lot of times it's not even the groom. Like, wherever they rented their tux from, it's incorrect. They spent too little.
Even though they were told, we're going to love the way you look. I guarantee it. You're going to love the way you look. One time I went to a wedding that was so boring, I just counted the bald heads in the room in front of me in the pews.
Well, I bet there was a bunch at a wedding. There's always,
there were.
You got the groom's family, the bride's family.
That's a game I recommend to people. If you find yourself, or you're watching a children's choir or something, and you're in a sea of auditorium, just look at the bald heads and count them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Guess Who.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun game, like Guess Who at weddings. and try to figure out who somebody is. Does your person have a bald head? Do they have glasses? Are they racist?
I do that with if it's really an unfamiliar wedding. I try to figure out who the groom is because you don't really know when all the groomsmen are standing together until you look for the guy sweating.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, weddings in general. I don't think weddings are that much fun. I think that they can be. There are certainly weddings that I've been to that have been fun and we've had a good time. But there have been weddings where I'm like, oh boy, this is a rough one. This is, and I think it all depends on the families involved. I think generally my family, although a more conservative, churchy type of family, has fun weddings. Everybody's there to have a good time. Everybody's there to, at least on a basic level, we're here to enjoy each other's company. Mm-hmm. But I have seen other people's families where I don't think that they've ever had fun in any circumstance in their life. They're the most stoic, boring people, and I'm like, I don't think you should be at a party, let alone planning one.
This party isn't helping you. Yeah. It's not bringing you out of your shell. Well, I didn't mean to talk about weddings. We really should save it for a different episode because I really do mean to talk about friendship. My sister is a social butterfly. She seems to make friends wherever she goes. Or let's just say she calls people her friends and considers people her friends that you, I think, might not. You might be like, that is an acquaintance or that is a colleague in your world. I don't mean for her. You don't judge.
That's an employee.
You don't judge who, yeah. And meanwhile, you've got people who just talk to strangers on the bus and they're like, I just met a friend today. So that's a different kind of social butterfly. But I just mean, I think it's her gift. She's just a friendly person and she strikes up conversation and she learns about people. And, then she has shared experiences with them. Like if they find something in common, they'll go, oh, you like bike riding? Let's be a part of a bike riding club. So I then, if I have hung out with her, she might invite those people to hang. Like she might invite some of these people that she's met through a separate group to one of my shows, then introduce me to them, and then they become my friends. So I will consider sending them a Christmas card, for example, or give them a gift on their birthday, and you will be like, who are you buying this gift for? And how do you know this person? Like, you've asked me that before, right?
Oh, many times. Many times where I'm like, I've never heard this person's name. And now, why are we getting them a gift?
And I'm like, it's the gardener of the cousin of the employee of my sister.
Why are we going to their wedding? I don't understand what's going on here.
So I don't know if that's just my family's way of like, we're just friendly. But I also don't think of it as a lifelong commitment to, for example, I found a book on the street for free, as I do pretty much regularly. And I save it in the house to give to somebody I know likes that book, but the person I know is not a good close friend. And you'll be like, why are you saving this book? It's taking up space. And I'll say, because I'm going to give it to John. And you're like, John, who is that again? And I'm like, you're not a friend, just a person that wants this book. And you're like, it'd be cheaper for you to go buy that book for John on Amazon than it is to keep it in the house. You know what I mean?
Sure. Although I don't know I have that speech pattern.
No.
If you did this, and if you hoodie and hoodie, I'm like, that's not how I talk.
That is a first, because usually when women make fun of their boyfriends, it's like, oh, I don't know where this thing is. But for me, when I'm talking about you, it's like,
some hee-haw auctioneer is what I apparently sound like. And so, just in general, like friendships are important to me. Like I've had friends that I've had since young childhood. And once there's a bond that has been made, I'm all about that person is my friend for life.
That's right. You're a committed friend. You don't judge the people in your life who you consider friends. You are loyal to them. If they need you, you show up for them. I think these are great qualities that you have as a friend.
But it takes a while to get in that circle. And it can't be
the circle of trust.
Yes. It can't be that we both happen to get bus tickets to Baltimore at the same day. It can't be that.
But for me, it's as simple as that. Yeah. If you compliment me or laugh at one of my jokes, guess what? You're getting a Christmas card.
Yeah. And
I'm getting you a cupcake on your birthday.
Yeah. And there's different ways that I have developed friendships. I play basketball with people and I'm like, oh, we developed. But there are people I play basketball with for years, and I never saw them outside of a basketball situation. Like, we've been on teams, and it's like, that's it. That is the confines of our friendship, is the basketball court. We're hanging out before or after.
Right.
And not that we have any animosity towards each other. It's just, that's not where our orbits have gone.
Sure. If you guys are Venn diagrams, the place where you connect is basketball. Now, sometimes you and I will be walking in our neighborhood and we'll see somebody on the street I don't recognize at all. And you will go, "Hey, what's up, man?" and have a very long convo. And then at the end, I'll go, "So who was that?" And you'll say, "Oh, I play basketball with him." And I don't make a big deal out of it. I'm like, "Sounds good." Or you'll introduce me to them. It's not like I'm sitting there waiting. And I'll have a convo with them and have no idea who they are. So, yeah,
but
I'm okay with that.
I'm also not going to their weddings, and I'm not buying them Christmas gifts or saving books.
You're
for
not
them.
inviting them to lunch in that same convo. You're leaving it on the court.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually am not stunned when I see somebody I've never recognized before in my life, because I just figure, people. You also know a bunch of comedians, and you work with a bunch of comedians that I haven't met yet, and I hear about them.
But that happens with you too, where it's like, because Comedy World's so big, it's like you'll be like saying, "I'm going to go to this person's show," and I'm like, I don't know them, and I don't know the lineup, and it's like, that's just the way it is.
I know. I'm laughing though, because you will have interacted with them dozens of times, and I won't know their name at all, and you'll get irritated with me. Meanwhile, I get irritated with you when you don't know an actress's name that I've mentioned dozens of times to you. You'll be like, "I've never seen any of their films. Why should I know that person?" And I'm like, "Because I talk about them."
Because I mentioned them once. Yeah, I don't. I guess that's true on some level with all of that stuff.
That's neither here nor there.
But they're not my friends either, like the actresses in the films that I haven't seen.
Right. I have no connection to them either.
And I wouldn't be going to their weddings either. So.
See, and I would. If I got a random invitation to a celebrity's wedding, whether I like your show or not, I would go just to see what there was to see.
Well, it depends on the celebrity. Like, and what kind of level we're talking about here. I'm going to Jay-Z, Beyonce level weddings, no matter whether I know them or not. Like, that's like,
it's going to cost you, though. You talk about a wedding that's going to cost you.
Basically, I'm getting a ticket to a concert there. That's what I'm considering that. It's no longer a wedding.
Good point. So, all right. Well, I just wanted to know what it means to you to have a friend, and why you don't just like count these randos as your friends the way I do.
Well, friend can be such a broad term. And that's why, like, in different languages, they have different words for different friendship levels and love levels.
Really? I didn't know that.
Well, there's like Philadelphia is brotherly love, right? It's not just a city.
City name.
Yes, it's not just an ironically named city. It's it's supposed to be like, oh, this is the bond between two people where you feel like, brothers.
Oh, that's the etymology. The Phil part is the love. That's neat.
Well,
I always thought it was about cream cheese.
Yes.
That's what I thought it meant. If you broke down the words,
it's the love of cream cheese, is what Philadelphia is. It's between a woman and her cream cheese. But like, when you're talking about relationships, so I have people that I call friends, but I have people that really are more acquaintances, but I don't go, "That's my acquaintance." I go, "Oh, that's a friend of mine." Mm-hmm. And then I have people that are very good friends, who I use the term friend for, but it's really, I have several friends where it's like, they're really more like brothers than they are friends.
Yeah, big family.
I do. Well,
you do that when you hang up on the phone. You'll say, "All right, brother, talk to you later, brother." And I thought it was a wrestling thing for you, but you really mean that. You mean you consider them a brother.
Well, not always. Sometimes it is just, I've absorbed too much Hulk Hogan promos. Oh,
Careful, you don't want to quote him too much.
I know. Just what you saw in the wrestling ring. I'm not ever going to quote Terry Bollea. Let's just say that. That's the real man who played Hulk Hogan.
Oh, thank you.
That's his real name.
Thanks for the asterisk.
Yes. Anytime we go into the Terry world, you might be saying something that'll get you canceled. So
anyway, you consider some people even close, like family.
Sure. So dealing with that different level of friendship, and then there's people who probably would say, "I'm their friend," and I would say, "We aren't even acquaintances. I barely know you."
This is a great point you bring up. I consider you to be my best friend. But who you consider to be your best friend is a man named Tim that you knew since childhood, and who he considers his best friend is actually a dog.
Yeah,
so it's all relative.
It really, I guess it's all about the person's perspective on what the relationship is. But but I do have best friends. Like you're my best friend in a lot of ways.
Aww,
So,
I want to hear the ways.
I'll write them down in a Valentine's Day card that you'll get in 2024.
You write the best B-Day cards. I always wonder, am I not gushing about you enough on Instagram? But I cannot stand to reveal like actual feelings on Instagram. I talk about
as you should. You should not be.
Yeah, if you
It
look
shouldn't
at
be a
my
sincere
Instagram,
place.
you'd be like, why is this woman obsessed with finding out whether we think this is real food or plastic food when we clearly know the difference? And it's like, because that's amusing to me.
I know if people looked at my Instagram, it's mostly my stand-up clips now, and so if they
They
just
think
took,
you're obsessed with yourself.
I know if they just took it as sincere thoughts, which some people do, by the way. Some people take jokes that are on the internet in video form, clips, as sincere thoughts. Where I've had people say, "That's not true." I'm like, what do you mean that's not true? Of course it's not true.
That's a joke.
It's a joke.
bud.
That's what makes it funny is that clearly we all get that that's not the reality of the situation. Like I have a joke, and I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast, where I talk about being my mom's last egg because my parents were older when they had me. You know, my siblings are much older. So
You
and
were the last one.
I was the last egg in her body, and I'm hiding behind fallopian tubes and things, and I'm acting out. And somebody underneath that video said, "This is not how the reproductive system works." And I'm like, and they were being sincere, and then they went on to explain it, and it's like, yeah. No, I didn't actually think I was a sentient egg that was hiding behind different body parts that
You
I couldn't
just like
possibly.
the visual of it.
Yes.
It's funny.
Yeah, I'm behind a liver here. Like I camped out behind the kidneys. I mean, come on. We know that's not how the.
How'd you get out of the
I know.
uterus into the liver? Oh, right. So you don't like when people take your stuff literally, and you.
And you can't be a friend of mine if you're going to take stuff literally.
That's another list. The
That is
rule on the
definitely.
list.
I have definitely had people in my life where they didn't know how to take a joke, and I'm not saying I'm making fun of them, but like they just everything was too literal with them. So all the things that I'm joking about, just in conversation, they never got the joke. They would take me seriously. I had some people that would get mad at me because of the jokes because they thought I'd being serious, and I'm like, where everybody else is laughing, we're all having a good time, and they're
Right.
like, why would you say that? Like that's not how that goes. And I'm like, yeah, I know that's the joke.
You are an anti-people pleaser in that if someone doesn't get you, you're so turned off. And me, I just thought you made me think of a guy I knew back in college who had like the straightest blank poker face all the time. He spoke in a monotone. And I was like, I cannot get this guy to light up at all. Like I would say, bye, hi, good to see you to everybody else in the class. And he would always be the tough nut to crack. And for me, that was a challenge. And by the end of the year, even, 5 years into graduating, 5 years after school, we were still in touch on Facebook. And I thought it was such an achievement because this guy was so not my personality and almost seemed like put out by how sunny I was at the time. So I was like, I'm going to tone it down.
You didn't like enjoyable people, so.
Right. So I started to antagonize him because that's how he spoke. And I started to I just like to meet people where they are. But you're like, take me for who I am. And if you don't want it, I don't want to do anything to do with you.
Oh, for sure. And like, I can see it in the way the audience members react to. So generally speaking, audiences are very complimentary and enjoy what I do, but occasionally, but I can also tell now when somebody looks like maybe they're not enjoying something. Like some comics might be like, oh man, they're just sitting there stoic. Sometimes I can see like a little smirk on their face or, a little smile or a little chuckle.
Yeah.
And I can tell they're getting it, they're enjoying it, but they don't feel comfortable in the environment.
Yeah, you're
or-
not taking it personally.
I'm not taking that. I realize like I'm meeting them where they are with it. It's like they're enjoying
good.
themselves, but this is how they're enjoying themselves. Is a little quiet laugher.
Right.
But the audience members that I don't like are the ones that roll their eyes at something I say, like, oh, like, there was a lady from Portland.
Yes.
Of course she was. And just everything I said, it was as if I was saying these serious statements that she couldn't possibly get on board with and agree with. And like, oh, how could you ever say? And I'm like, look.
Yeah, she objected with your premise, not even like how you were saying it. The fact that you even were talking about
just the
certain things.
premises. Yeah, just like, and there are people that have done that where I'm just like, I have no time for you. In fact, if I could, I would just stop the show down and say, you know what, you can leave. Just somebody will refund your ticket. Goodbye.
You know
And
what might be
we're gonna
fun
enjoy this
for comedians, and this would be an ideal comedy club. Underneath each seat is a trap door that is supported by a slide, and the person gets to slide out, and then there's someone that can just either hand them their money back or give them a cupcake, something that'll make them happy because they're just not happy watching your set. And that would be so great for the comedian because it's like, all you need to do is leave. But they won't leave because they're stubborn. It's like trapdoor. You just push a little button.
I like that yours is just this little slide that takes them right to the box office and they get their money back. Where I would picture the slide is it's just a chute that goes right into the dumpster outside. And you just...
Porta potty pit.
They shoot down there. You see them fall in. Papers and trash goes
banana
flying
peel
everywhere.
on their head like a hat,
and the lid just closes right on top of them.
Boom.
And the garbage truck comes and picks it up immediately and takes them away.
Oh, goodness,
that would be the perfect one for bad audience.
Isn't
members.
it enough that they're out of your sight? You have to see them suffer too. That's funny. Yeah, I get it because it's like you don't enjoy good things, so here's a dumpster for you.
Now I can sometimes enjoy when somebody doesn't like me, like it. I was at. A club here in the city. It was a sold out show and like 300 people there. And it's a big club. And I happened to be in the room after the show was over and people were coming by. Oh, you're so funny. I liked you so much. And I don't know if I've told this on the podcast, but it was a lady came up and literally had been probably like 40 people had already come by and said how much they appreciate it, like it, where can I find you, let me follow you, all this stuff and see more of you. And this lady came by, she's about 60 years old, and she looked at me and said, "You were very insulting." And I was like, I was ready to say thank you because I had said thank you to all these.
Because then she just moved right on,
and she just moved right on, and her son or whoever it was behind her was like, kind of shook his head and waved his hands like, he goes, "Don't worry about it. You were good. Don't worry about it." But it's interesting that just amused me because of the insult. Like, you were very insulting, and I'm like, I don't even know what. Because I didn't talk to you at all, so I have no idea what the insulting part was. Which part of my act did you find insulting? Was it, a church thing? What was it? So it's that can be fun.
That stinks when someone, and she didn't even stay to tell you what bothered her. Some people will just tell you, I really didn't like your joke about this. You shouldn't tell it this way or whatever. And that's fine. You can have a combo, but she just like, what is that called? Like a hit and run. She was a drive-by, heckler.
That's one of the few that I really enjoyed because there's mystery to it.
Right.
And we're all kind of like, what did that mean? Like, none of us know what that means. The other comics, and we can laugh about it. And it's something where it's, I very, very rarely does somebody ever come up to another human being and say, "I don't like you. I don't like what you do." Just because that's not polite society. That's not what generally. So something I said made her so upset that she had to come up and tell me I was very insulting, and then just leave in a puff of smoke. Like it was almost like a
insult comic.
Almost like I looked for her after that, and she was just gone. It's like, was she ever there?
I don't know. I'm mad that she exists, that she did that to you, because everybody, you could have just had a nice little floating on air kind of night, and then she came into.
I actually loved it. It's. There's people, because after a while in any career, anything you do, if you get to the point where you're like, I know I'm pretty decent at this thing, those little pot shots aren't gonna like affect you too much.
Right.
So like anybody that tells an NBA player that they stink, it's like the NBA player should be, I'm a professional basketball player. I'm okay with this. So it doesn't really matter what you say on Twitter. I stink. It's like, yeah, there's a basketball player, former basketball NBA player, Brian Scalabrine, and he's this big, white, redheaded guy, and people would just go at him and say how much he stinks, and so he started challenging people, like, okay, I stink, let's go, and he would just eviscerate them on the basketball court. Every single person, just
these non-NBA players,
dominate them, just show them. And the way he described it was, I'm closer to LeBron James than you are to me in skill level. So right. What you think is, oh, I really stink and I'm horrible and I shouldn't be I am so much better than almost everybody on the planet that you're gonna be embarrassed when you play me. And he would do that. So.
This reminds me very, very early in my career, a friend of mine, I felt like she was not appreciating the effort I was putting into comedy. I don't know, something she said was kind of like, "Are you sad you're not further along?" Something like that. Yeah. I don't think she was trying to bring me down, but she's just a very analytical person.
Are you sad that you don't have anything and nobody likes you? Does that bother you at all?
And I just knee-jerk said, "I'm the most famous person you know." And it wasn't a flex. It was just like, consider all of your colleagues and who among them has the reach that I do right now. And she let it go. And honestly, it just became like a funny catchphrase among us of just like, I'll never forget, you're the most famous person I know. And I'm like, don't forget it.
Well, people have no concept in life in general of what success means outside of whatever their bubble is, you know.
Yeah, when it comes to career success.
Yeah, they know, if they work at UPS, they know what success is. It's moving up the ladder, and you go from this route that you went on, now you're a better route, or you go on to have this supervisor role, or now you're the manager, you're a district manager, and you see the climbing of the ladder. You made this amount 10 years ago, you make more now.
Yeah.
But in comedy or entertainment, people go that success to them is really the most unachievable stuff. So it's like, Kevin Hart is successful. It's like, well, yeah, he is successful. He's the most successful.
Right. This is back to the basketball guy of like, LeBron James. Now that's a basketball player. And he's like, I too am a basketball player, and I will smoke you on the court.
And exactly. I am closer to Kevin Hart than any of our listeners are to me in comedy. So, but it might not look that way to them. Oh, you're just at a club for 300 people instead of literally a stadium in front of 20,000. It's like, yeah, but you know, you're not anywhere. You're not in front of any people. So.
Well, if this were a more serious podcast, I would ask you how you define success. But let's save that for when we've got industry money coming in and people need us to be very long and boring and philosophical.
Yeah, turn it into an industry podcast, and everyone comes for our long philosophical musings.
Ooh, I have a question for you. This is not, anything I've ever asked you before. What's the closest you've come to being canceled?
Like, you mean like cancel culture cancel?
Yeah, like something you've done. Because
I've had clubs cancel on me because they cease to exist. Like, I've had clubs where like, oh, we're sorry we had you booked a headline, but we actually went out of business. So
I've had my order canceled at a diner, but that's not what I mean either. I mean, but that is funny. But yeah, club, when a comedian hears canceled, they probably think about, oh, did I lose a gig?
Yeah,
No. For you, I just and it's putting you on the spot, so you might not be able to come up with it, but just like something that. I guess it's the same thing of like, what's the worst heckle you've ever gotten? But
it was that woman that said, you're very insulting.
Yeah.
That's the closest I think I've ever come.
Because she runs BuzzFeed, and you didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I'm very insulting.
You know, restaurants have like mystery diners that come in and they're secretly a food critic. That's what she was. She was just like somebody that could have decided that you're going to be famous tomorrow.
Probably. Yeah, that was Ma'am Hollywood there.
Ma'am.
It was. I don't think I've ever gotten close to being canceled because, I mean, first of all,
you don't do cancelable things.
No, and I think that the whole cancel culture thing is a little overblown. I think that there are people that do not take jokes well, and there are people that do dark humor or edgy humor. I don't even like the word edgy because edge could mean lots of different things to different people, and I believe there is multiple edges to things, not get too technical. Like, so there's dirty edgy, but there's edgy in other ways too.
Talking about taboo subjects,
right?
Talking about something personal that is hard for people to usually talk about,
right? All those things could be edgy, and you could be a completely clean comic and edgy like that.
Saying the word darn in a Christian comedic set.
Yeah, that's probably the closest I got to canceled. Like, so
yeah, playing for a church that thought you were not churchy enough is probably close to getting canceled.
I wouldn't call this cancel because usually I think the stereotype with cancel culture is that it's left wing or liberal people, though the quote unquote woke world canceling somebody some real American that knows how to, say, but that my experience has been it's usually the reverse for me, that the more conservative crowds have been the ones that have been more likely. Like, I did have somebody cancel a gig on me. And it wasn't even that great of a gig, but they canceled and said that how did they phrase it? That I was anti-Trump, anti-Trumper that hates America. And I was like, I don't even know how you got that from any of my jokes, because I don't even have a single Trump joke. like not a single one.
Right. I don't think you say the word America or United States in your act.
No, well, there's maybe a couple jokes that are slightly political, but they're not even really that political. Like if I have a gun joke, it's really just talking about how old guns didn't really even work. Like talking about
when the Second Amendment was written.
Yeah, like muskets or things like that. It's really a joke more about how those things stunk, and you can't really compare them to today. And it's just if you make up rules based on those things, what does this mean?
Right.
And so that's the close, and I don't even do that generally in my act. That's just something that was on my album, and I haven't done that really much in years. And I even have a joke that says I don't get political in my act. Did you guys notice? And they all clap and they go, that's because you never leave a political discussion going, I'm glad I did that, right? And so people laugh at that joke. So I'm like, I have no idea where you came up with anti-Trumper that hates America. And it could be because I was hired.
It's because you have a black wife.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Well, clearly he hates America. He didn't marry a white woman the way that he was supposed to. And so it could be that I was hired by a satirical site for one day to do an interview with Scaramucci. And I'm like, but that's all it is just me interviewing them.
He is in proximity to Trump, or was at some point.
Right.
I've tried to forget that whole era, so I don't know.
I know.
But I do know you won you were a Webby Award winner.
I did,
that,
yeah.
Whatever that program was.
Where we were a nominee for that. So
nominee.
But I'm also like, I don't even know how they happened to find, but that has nothing to do with my stand-up. And by the way, the site that I did do the interview with Scaramucci for ended up reimbursing me for the gig I lost because of that. So they ended up coming back and saying, look, if you lost that because of us,
wow,
we're paying for that gig. And I was like,
a nice guy.
And that's the only gig that have ever, well, he's a true friend.
Yeah, there you go again. We've got a good list. I don't have all of my qualifications listed about what makes a good friend, but I like yours. Yours are funny.
Yeah.
Yours are very specific.
Pretty much anybody that says, I want to give you money. Oh, what a good friend.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to paint you as a mooch. I think money is the way to your heart. That sounds awful.
Oh, that sounds even worse than mooch. Well, that's the funny thing. Like, I mean, we all want to make money, and have a living for ourselves. That's we all want to be able to survive in this world. But I did have somebody, and I don't know if this is I assume this is a scam. Like a Facebook, it says we're friends, but I don't remember this person. And was like, I'm feeling generous today. Give me your Cash App, and I want to just send you some money. And I didn't respond to that at all because I'm like, well, first of all, it's like, well, let's just say I follow this through, and I go, all right, here's my Cash App, and they send me money. What's the scam here? Like, what happens? Like, where does it go from there? Like, do they then have somehow access to my account?
Right.
Do they then ask for the money back? I mean, what this
reminds? It could have been a random act of kindness. I saw in our local subway station, people had set up a table that had free Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and someone else had a poster board that said "random act of kindness." And so I saw two women chatting with the other people that were giving away the coffee, and I was like, "What's the catch here? Why they buy coffee for strangers, and why are they giving it to them?" And maybe you and I are just weird, skeptical people, but I thought
New Yorkers now.
I thought, what if they're trying to spread COVID through these coffees to prove a point that it was really just like the flu in the first place? I just didn't want the coffee, even though on that particular day I was out of coffee beans, so I didn't get to make any at home.
And also, that's not how COVID spread, so it didn't even matter there.
Well, forget my skepticism. What's funnier is that I actually could have benefited from their kindness, but I just wouldn't take them up on it. I was like, nope. And then when our daughter, she goes, Mom, your coffee, look, it's here. You were complaining that you didn't get to have any. And I was like, that's okay. I'll just get some other time. So she was just like, why didn't you get the coffee? And on the way back, I thought, you know what? On the way back, I'll get it because she's right. I'm a little too cynical. And then they were gone. They were long gone. And I was like,
They wrapped up that whole racket.
Yeah, exactly. They
just pulled the blanket up and they're gone.
So I felt more justified in my cynicism when they were long gone, like not a trace of them around. I thought, I knew it.
They just flipped the table on their side as 3-card Monte. Yeah, well, the only thing that would be worse is like if it's a random act of kindness so that we can become friends and then invite you to our wedding. I'm like, that would be the only worst
Darn
thing.
it, you got me again. Thanks for joining us today. If you had a great time, let us know on social. Follow Kid is in School on Twitter and The Kid is in School on Instagram. Subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Be sure to throw us one of those 5-star ratings and share with your friends. Oh, and do it quickly before the kid gets home.